accidentally ruining a highly anticipated wedding by giving a compliment that was misinterpreted. Now the bride and groom are furious and claiming I stole their spotlight. I, 17F, have been staying at my uncle's house for a few weeks now. He is a handicapped man who lost both his legs to a car accident 5 years ago. To being a wheelchair user, he always believed that he would never get married or have a love life because of his age and physical limitations. However, he is a very hilarious man with an entertaining personality, and almost all our relatives love him, and we all wanted him to find love. After a lot of matchmaking, he finally started dating a girl a year ago. They decided to get married on September 25th, 2024. A week ago, I came across an Instagram post of my friend, and in that pic I saw my uncle's geef chilling in the background. What I didn't notice was a guy standing next to her. She was wearing a beautiful dress, so I sent that pic to my uncle appreciating his girl's beauty. Turns out that the guy I ignored was her ex. There arose some conflicts and he called off the marriage. She may or may not have cheated on him. They didn't clarify anything. All my relatives are outraged after realizing that I was the main reason for this. They told me that I should have shown something like this to proper adults instead of ruining a long-awaited marriage. I tried telling them that I didn't expect it to turn out like this, but they all keep on insulting me for being a family ruiner. My uncle said that we should not try matchmaking in his case again, and that he is not interested in anything anymore. My senseless action led to all this mess. I feel very guilty.
Next story.
Telling my family that my husband is a good father, only for them to accuse me of downplaying his flaws and ignoring their concerns. When he was in his early 20s, my husband got a girl pregnant. They were casual dating in college. They had a lot of mutual friends. He didn't want to be a dad and told her as much, but she was adamant about keeping the baby. He was supportive through the pregnancy, but was clear he didn't want to be involved. He wanted to renounce his rights, but ended up with an agreement where he still pays child support but doesn't do visitation nor has involvement in any parental decisions. The girl is now 12. He hasn't met her nor plans to ever do. I met him 8 years ago. We've been married for almost 7. He told me about the whole having a bio child out there very early on. I am fine with it. It is sad that a child came to the world under those circumstances, but I don't think he was wrong for choosing not to be involved. We now have a 5-year-old son. My husband has always been wonderful to me. That's why I fell in love with him. He was great during the pregnancy and birth, and has been doting on our son and me ever since. I think he's a wonderful dad and husband. So the problem: 2 of his friends married their college girlfriends, whom were friends with his bio daughter's mother. And now 3 occasions in conversations where I said my husband is a wonderful father. One of them said something snarky and mean like yeah, to only one Atolai's children. Over the weekend, we attended to one of them kids' birthday party. I was chatting to another mom about motherhood and said that it's easier when you have a good team player in your spouse. So the homeowner mom chimed in to say, loudly, if only the mother of his other child had the same. So later I confronted her in the kitchen, said I was very tired of her and other friend comments about my husband, that she didn't need to invite us to things or spend time with us if she didn't want to, but it was super disrespectful to be constantly insulting him as a father. She told me she initially liked me but finds it distasteful and rude that I keep praising my husband as a good father when I'm well aware that he isn't, that she will always make sure to correct me, because it's not okay that he got away with what he did, and he now gets to play happy family with me and our son. The conversation went south from then on, and of course we left. The other mom friend texted me yesterday to tell me she completely backs up what the other said, and that I'm horrible for marrying and having a kid with a deadbeat, and on top of it to praise him as a good dad. I have no doubts of my feelings. My husband has been, and is great with our son and with me. I guess I never thought how my words could be insensitive towards his bio daughter and her mother, whom I've never met, but Ada for occasionally saying my husband is a good father when talking to people. Should I stop?
Next story. Telling my son he's not serving lunch detention in front of his teacher, who assigned it, and now the teacher says I undermined her authority. On Monday, my son called me from the nurse's office and asked me if I could bring him a clean shirt. I asked why, and he said his shirt was covered in blood. He's been getting random nosebleeds ever since he had to pull his dead stepdad from the waves after he suffered a heart attack. So that combined with starting middle school, hitting puberty, and not getting along with his mom has caused him a great deal of stress. When I went to his school and asked if he'd rather just go home, and he said no because they were going to play dodgeball at PE. I said okay. On Tuesday, I got an email from his teacher, Miss S., saying that Frankie was assigned detention for not getting a hall pass to go to the bathroom. I asked her to call me because I didn't understand. We spoke, and she said Frankie didn't show up to class on Monday. So I said yes, because he had a massive nosebleed on his way to your class, and went to the bathroom to get tissue. But it wouldn't stop bleeding, so he went to the nurse. She said he should have gone to class first, and then gotten a pass. I said your class is on the other side of where he was when he started bleeding. Are you saying he should have walked while bleeding to your class to get a pass, and then walked to the bathroom, and then back to your class, still bleeding, for another pass to go to the nurse, and then walked to the other side of campus? That's a lot of activity and blood. She said students can't decide that they're not going to class, and she said she needs to know where they are. I said you did when the nurse called you, and I don't disagree that you need to know where your students are. However, this wasn't like my kid ditched class commit bank robbery. I said I'll talk to him and make it clear about this, but please nix this detention nonsense. A warning, memum okay. Detention? Overkill for this situation. She said no. I said well, he's not doing it so. Yesterday me and Frankie met with the VP regarding his nosebleeds. The VP was more concerned that we were getting help and to let Frankie know that he cared. I mentioned the detention thing to the VP and he said would handle it and thought it was insane to punish a kid for getting medical help. He agreed that my kid wasn't trying to avoid class and better communication was needed. As I was leaving, we ran into Mrs. S and I told her that we had a meeting with the VP and, just like I told you, my son isn't serving detention over a nosebleed. She didn't say anything but went to the VP's office, and I understand that she was there for a minute because another teacher sub her class. This morning the VP called me and said that he'd wish that I hadn't said anything. I said, well, I wish Mrs. S was more reasonable and didn't start this whole thing. And for the record, I'm not some soft dad who lets his kids do whatever they want. Next story.
Inviting my nephew to my wedding, despite his estrangement from my brother. Now my brother is accusing me of choosing sides and creating tension in the family. I, 33M, am marrying my fiancé, 37M, this winter. We're putting together the guest list to send the invitations out and have run into an issue over my nephew and my brother. My brother, 38M, was 18 when his girlfriend told him she was pregnant. They ended up moving in together and my brother decided to go to find work as a mechanic rather than go to college as he'd planned. My nephew was born a little while later. They got married when she told him she was pregnant with their second kid, 15F, and then had 2 more, both 10M. Ever since my nephew was born, he's been literally one of my favorite people. I babysat him plenty of times, same with my other nibblings, and have spent my 20s as their gunkle, gay uncle. My brother and me were close as kids, and I've been close with his kids as well. 5 years ago, my brother found out my nephew wasn't his, and his now ex-wife had been sleeping with someone else at the time, and had suspected my oldest nephew wasn't my brother since he was a little kid. They ended up getting a divorce, and my brother didn't seek custody of my oldest nephew and said he didn't want to see him. He told me that he needed time to process and would try to patch things up later. That idea was kind of ruined when my nephew turned up at my brother's apartment begging to talk. It turned into an argument between them. For context, our father had just passed a couple of months earlier. During the argument, my nephew said something along the lines of, "No wonder Mom F somebody else. I bet Grandpa hated you." My brother cut things off then and there and has refused to see my nephew since. I stepped in as the main male figure in my nephew's life, much as I dislike my exile. I even took him out for his 18th birthday and took him looking at universities, and he now goes to my alma mater. I asked my brother how he wants to handle the seating situation if they don't want to be close together. My brother was angry I'd even invite my nephew after everything that happened. He said it'd be like inviting my exile. He's not family, he's just the prick who disrespected our dad. I said he's being petty and childish, taking the words of a scared and angry 14-year-old so personally. He was a kid who said something shitty because his entire world was falling apart and the person he'd relied on for his whole life was suddenly pulling away. And instead of being understanding and doing family therapy or something like a grown-up, my brother decided to give adult weight to a teenager's words and cut him off completely. My nephew has said he's okay with not going if it's causing an issue. But I told him not to be ridiculous. He's important to me and I want him there for when I marry my person. I told him he shouldn't let my brother's inability to let go be his problem. My fiancé agrees with me. My mom and sister both say I need to see it from my brother's perspective. I think he's just being petty.